My name is Garry Tomerlin. I am the moderator for the meeting. And just so everyone will know, the meeting is being recorded and your microphones are muted. So if you have any questions, we welcome you to put those in chat and we will attempt to answer those before the end of the meeting. But just briefly, my background as moderator is my job is government relations and strategic initiatives at Technical Laboratory Systems. And prior to that, I was Deputy Assistant Commissioner of Workforce at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. And then I had various roles at community colleges, both for teaching and administrative. And I have about 30 years of workforce experience. And so I hope all that qualifies me to moderate and have our panelists talk to us about what's happening in workforce today with smart manufacturing and reshoring of manufacturing and that kind of stuff, which is what we're going to talk about during the webinar today. And so with that, we have a pretty good number. I'm going to just go and I'm going to ask our panelists to start introducing themselves and speak a little bit about their background. And so Jim Wall, if you'll go first.
Good morning. My name is Jim Wall. I'm the Executive Director with SACA, the Smart Automation Certification Alliance. And I've been involved with workforce education issues really my entire career, beginning too many years ago as a CTE instructor. And then I moved on and worked as a faculty member at the university on workforce education and development programs, former school administrator also. And for about 30 years now, I've been involved with standards development and certification programs. So it's a pleasure to be here to present with you today.
Thank you, Jim. Michael Cook, if you'll introduce yourself to our participants, please.
Good morning, Michael Cook. I'm with Rockwell Automation, based out of our Milwaukee headquarters. And roughly for about the last 20 years, I've been working in a strategy and business development role, much of that associated with some of the new emerging technology and industry segments. A key part of that has been looking at how we develop the workforce around that. And so as Director of Industry and Academia, a lot of our role has been to work with academic institutions to bring some of the industry lessons and best practices in terms of applied work into programs from high schools through 2- and 4-year programs and institutes. So we spend a lot of time building that workforce of the future in the most practical way that is possible.
Thank you, Michael. Jeff Erickson, if you'll introduce yourself, please.
All right, I'm Jeff Erickson. I am a program coordinator over an automation technology program at Mountainland Technical College. Background is I came from maintenance. I have a degree in automation, electrical technology, or in robotics. Sorry, always forget the little robotics part, a little important. But I specialize in teaching students on how to become effective technicians and pre-engineers out in industry. And so I have spent the last 6 years of my life focusing on that and looking for the best ways to supply industry with a ever-growing demand of qualified technicians.
Thank you, Jeff. And if you would speak a little bit about your school and out west.
Gotcha. So Mountainland Technical College is a really awesome institution. We actually are the fastest growing in Utah. We've grown substantially, adding new buildings almost every couple of years to meet the needs of our growing populations. We offer a lot of different things, all the way from culinary up to cosmetology, robotics, automation, all that good stuff. With me exactly being over the automation department, we've been blessed to have 2 campuses built for us. We have a 3rd one coming up here next year in Payson, and we have grown our program substantially. I think it's grown, I want to say, about 400% in the last 4 years with the amount of students that we're putting out, and it's literally a drop in a bucket to what is actually needed.
Well, thank you, thank you. And to our participants, when we put this together, obviously Jim Wall, as he said, the executive director of SACA, is the day-to-day operations person, but Michael brings us the 30,000-foot view of automation, if you will, of what we've all heard about what's driving manufacturing today. And so he shares that view. And then, of course, we asked Jeff to participate because he's kind of our boots on the ground person, if you will. And so that is kind of the triangulation, if you will, or the 3 points that we're trying to bring to this webinar and the message we're trying to share with our panelists. So Jim, I'm gonna go back to you first and let you really kind of start us off. And if you would, I'm gonna, more of two questions at the same time is, why SACA and what is SACA? And maybe I should say that again, just for the group, just in case, the Smart Automation Certification Alliance. But if you'll, spend a few minutes and take us down that road, Jim.
Sure. So SACA was formed back in 2017 when a group of industry leaders came together and they recognized that there was a problem across the industry with how to develop a pipeline of skills related to the new Industry 4.0 related technologies that are completely revamping not only manufacturing, but all kinds of other business practices with all kinds of different organizations. And the decision was made by that group to form SACA. We are a nonprofit educational foundation, and the amount of industry support that we've had over the years to work together to develop industry-wide standards and certifications it's really been pretty amazing, but it really pointed out to me that there's a huge need in industry to develop pathways internally within their own organizations to upskill their existing workforce and also to create pathways in communities across the country to develop skills for people to enter the industry and continually to upgrade their skills. Because, one thing is certain, the amount of change is increasing every year with these new technologies. So, we know that, we're going to continually be developing new standards and certifications, micro-credentials, as these new technologies get introduced into the industry. And, really the whole goal of our organization is to help communities build pipelines so that we have a competitive workforce in the United States.
Thank you, Jim, for that information. And so, Michael, I know obviously that you have been involved in SACA for many years, but then also your company is a platinum sponsor of SACA. So if you could speak about that a little bit, please.
Yeah, and I'll just walk back a few years here. When the term mechatronics first became a little bit more, let's say, popular with engineering programs in the U.S., a lot of what we were seeing outside the U.S. was already there in terms of automation. And as we looking at integrating these new technologies into systems, I think we were seeing that on the technology interoperability side, there was some standards emerging around some of the technical standards bodies. But what we were missing was really on the Industry 4.0 occupational workforce standard science. We weren't seeing a lot of activity, and a lot of what we were seeing was being referenced from outside of the U.S. And we felt at that time, if we were able to get industry more engaged and certainly involved in setting up some of these standards and these pathways with some of these emerging segments, we could move more quickly as industry. So the short story is industry is probably moving a whole lot quicker than academic institutions in implementing these technologies on a day-to-day basis. And the real question we had was, how do we engage academic institutions to move quicker, ideally at the speed of industry? But we needed to start systematic approach to working more carefully with academic institutions with a stronger alignment to the industries that are emerging. So if you think about some of the industries that are being invested in today, And there's probably about, I'll put a number out there, about $430 billion of investment around CHIPS, IRA, the IIJA, and other acts that have been passed, that are being executed right now. There just wasn't a place yet for standards. And I think that's where SACA really started to fill in some gaps, and to fill in some gaps locally, that we nationally could start to take ownership of building those standards and those skill sets and those pathways, starting to get more alignment between industry and academia. We're looking to put this into context. We're talking about roughly 4.6 million manufacturing jobs that would need to be filled over the next decade. And then, of course, with this additional infrastructure investment around semiconductor and other kind of key strategic industries that nationally we need to take more control of in terms of supply chain and resiliency, we're still going to have an additional gap in that of about just under 2 million that are going to be really, really tough to fill. And the other part of this story is as we onshore, we talk about the manufacturing multiplier. For every dollar spent in manufacturing, it adds roughly about $2.74 to the economy. So it's really important to have this context, because we just simply have to get this right, and we've got to move quicker, and we've got to have standards for these occupations that are emerging, that happen at the speed of the occupations that are happening in industry. And the only way to do that is that we create a systematic approach of standards, occupational standards for workforce that's indigenous to U.S. manufacturing and the communities around them. So stepping in and participating with SACA was really, really important for us. It's important for our end user communities to have not just a voice, but actually be invested and be invested as stakeholders in the definition of those skill sets and those standards. And by doing that, we're able to tap into these ecosystems and move a lot more quickly and a lot more accurately and aligned between industry and academia to do this really well. And I think what's not seen in the background is, and Jeff could maybe talk to this as well, is academic institutions are going through significant change too. And so as industry, we're looking at a 2 or 4 year degree and say, well, that's fantastic, but we also need to look at continuing education. We need to fill some gaps in those skill sets, and we need a way of validating that's credible across industry. So that for us is really important. The other context from a workforce challenge perspective is, and you would have heard this, is aging population, lower birth rates, rising tuition costs, declining high school graduates. Access and affordability becomes a really big challenge for us. And this is one area that I think SACA has done some exemplary work about lowering those barriers to industry. And then we also have pretty big shortfalls in high demand fields as well. And so all this kind of ties back to a coordinated national smart manufacturing plan that we can execute and succeed and keep our ground as the most competitive country in advanced manufacturing. That just provides a lot of context as kind of a preamble as to why we got more engaged with SACA and why we in our end user community feel that they really are supporting us in our national mission to create these pipelines of skill sets.
Wow, I was trying to write those numbers down, Michael, as you were talking. It's a huge impact, obviously. I mean, I myself, as I guess you can tell from my hair color, I'm part of that retiring population at some time in the future. I'm still going today, but that was a lot. So Jeff, it's really, I guess, the same question to you of what we started off with, Jim, if you will. You're our boots on the ground person, as I said earlier. So maybe you tell us why you implemented SACA at your college and what your local business and industry are telling you relative to what Michael just shared.
Oh, well, the fun thing is coming into this position, I was spending the first year or two just getting my feet wet, understanding really what I was doing here. We went through some very significant changes in a very short amount of time, and we kind of continue to do that. But immediately, I kind of realized that we needed some kind of certification. There was no standards. There was nothing. I went to college, and I worked with a lot of people that had gone to college, and there was a lot of different standards of what they had actually learned and was able to do. And the solve all to that was some kind of certification, but there wasn't really much certifications out there. So I started digging around, doing a lot of homework, asking a lot of questions. And to be honest, SACA came on my radar several years ago before I even did anything with it. I saw it, I looked at it, that's neat. Looked at some others, that's neat, and kind of things rolled on. But what really caught my attention as I dug deeper and looked at all the different educational institutions that were, or certification institutions that were doing things, was how industry supported SACA was. It really made a big difference in my decision and kind of going that direction. Being able to see that it actually applied with all these big manufacturers, including Allen Bradley across the nation, really gave it a lot of backbone to it, and especially how they laid it out. We use it basically all the way from the very beginning of our program to the end of our program. We have used the certifications in a way where our students use them as a final test for all of our coursework. So if they're learning how to do electrical, they're taking the C201 certification as the final test. If they're doing motor controls, they're doing the 202 certification as the final test. And the reason why we went that way is because we had an advisory meeting where our local industry comes together and tells us what is value and what's not. And we agreed that we wanted some kind of final test that added up to more than just being a final test. We wanted them to be able to walk away with a certification that would be recognized anywhere. And it's been outstandingly helpful ever since. As many of you probably know, Utah is a very diverse manufacturing atmosphere, and we have a lot of government contracts. So we do everywhere from chip manufacturing to national defense. I get to have some fun going out the Dugway and seeing the experiments that they do on military contracts, and don't get to talk about it, but get to see how cool it is. But it's certifications equal this, and I know it does, and I know what you can deliver for us.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So we have a question that was put in the chat, and I'll go ahead and do that now. And Jim, I'm going to kick it to you first, and then Michael, you might have knowledge here. But the question is, how does SACA relate to the Global Industrial Certification Pathway? Jim, have you?
Well, we do have a global presence. We have programs operating outside the United States. And we've been asked to go on a global approach. We're doing it slowly. We need to make sure we can maintain the integrity of our certification program, and we also face the barrier of translating everything and having our entire website and standards and everything available in multiple language, which is a pretty monumental effort. But it is our intention to work globally as much as possible and practical.
The certification, or the question, ask about the global. I'm sorry, I'm looking at multiple things here, and people are texting on my phone to help orchestrate this a bit. Global Industrial Certification Pathway. I think it's a specific thing. Maybe, and Jim, I understand a global answer. Michael, are you familiar with the Global Industrial Certification Pathway as a specific thing?
I'm not specifically familiar with this, but I understand that the concept of global and what we're trying to do here with SACA as well, because in the end you've got all these bodies across the globe. You've got Industry 4.0, Industry 4.0. You've got standards that are coming out of Europe. There are a variety of other standards bodies that may be more vendor oriented, as well. And we're really talking about occupational pathways that relate to Industry 4.0 type careers. And so there's a little bit of a distinction to be drawn to that. I'm very familiar with SMC. They're actually some of the technologies we use in some of our automation solutions. So we're very familiar with them and their training business. But what we're trying to get away from here is have a vendor-led as opposed to a vendor-agnostic approach with very high quality, extremely low barriers to industry that has potential to be applied more globally.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so the question was, which university is Jeff at? And he is at Mountainland. But Jeff, you said, I'm not looking at it. I don't want to mess it up. I'm sorry. I shouldn't
No, you're
answer for you.
good. So we always say MTech, so it throws people off a little bit, but we're a Mountainland Technical College in Utah County. So we're surrounded by all sorts of universities, University of Utah, Utah Valley University, BYU. And so that kind of gives you more of a location of where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Jim, we've kind of talked about, SACA, how it came to be, and the global view of SACA, if you will. Drill down deeper into SACA and, help expand upon what Jeff talked about earlier about the various certifications, the pathways, and that sort of stuff, if you will.
Sure. Let me share my screen here. So just for a little bit of context, currently SACA has 385 member organizations, total users of 21,000, and the total number of certification as of last week, a little over 56,000 credentials have been issued. I'm going to clip through a couple slides that show some of the major industrial organizations that have been involved with helping to develop the SACA standards and certification program. You'll notice, a number of recognizable names in the industry, and these companies have all made their technical experts available on a voluntary basis to serve on our technical work groups and standards development groups as well. So one company I want to point out, people always ask, well, who's using the SACA certifications? One of the most recognizable companies I can refer to is Amazon. Amazon began using our certifications as part of a national apprenticeship program that they developed and operated at multiple sites around the country for developing a pipeline for their entry-level mechatronics and robotics and reliability technicians. That program has gone very well. And recently, they've made a decision to expand the use of the SACA certifications to all of their maintenance and reliability technicians across North America. And their rationale for that was that they needed to get a standardized skill level from location to location. They have a large number of locations, certainly around North America, and they have a relatively small number of these reliability and robotics technicians. And they're using the certifications for their entry-level workers, but also to get a consistent skill level at their different, they got a technician level 1, a level 2, a level 3, and then they have an automation engineer, and all those different roles now are beginning to use the SACA certifications. So we're really, really happy to have them on board. I'm going to step through now some of our different certifications, beginning with our associate level certifications. these associate level certifications are designed to be foundational, really kind of an introduction to the world of Industry 4.0 related technologies and modern automation and what exactly is Industry 4.0 related technologies. From the associate level, we have a specialist level certification where we've got, a number of common roles throughout the industry that relate to Industry 4.0 related roles in the industry. Each one of these specialist certifications is made up of a different stack of micro credentials. Now, these micro credentials, the whole concept for developing this platform based on micro credentials came out of our first technical work group meeting back in 2017, where we were asking industry to visualize what would work best within their own organizations to more quickly be able to upskill their existing workforce. And the comments, kept coming back pretty consistently. They needed something that was very modular in nature, very granular. There was no one size fits all was going to fit the industry. So there had to be a lot of flexibility. And the comments were made, over and over again. If we could send our people for training and certification for, say, a week at a time, it will be much easier for us to upskill our existing workforce. That sort of set us up. Yes,
Let me interrupt just a second, please. We got a comment that some people can't see the screen. I personally am seeing it, so I think Jim is sharing it correctly. I can't poll the audience, but several other people are saying I see the screen, so maybe it's an individual user. I've got lots of I see the screens. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any way that I can have any settings on that.
Okay. Okay. We're blowing up chat with I see the screen.
Okay.
So, but
Great.
anyway, okay, let's keep going, Jim. Thank you.
So that set us down on this path of developing a platform of micro credentials, and we designed these micro credentials to be the amount of content that could be covered in roughly that 40 hours of training to go through the training and the certification program. And this next slide is a little bit hard to read, but I was trying to get it all on one slide. But these are the individual micro credentials that are available currently in the SACA system. And it really, we like to refer to this as these are the ingredients that schools, colleges, and companies can use to develop pathways that are specific to their organization. People need different skill sets in different roles in different organizations. Different schools have the ability and they say equipment and technology in their programs to do, some of it, but maybe not all of it. So having these individual micro credentials allows for people to customize their programs, and on the education side, they can do, what they can do and work towards the future, maybe to build out their lab or whatever to have the equipment that is for the certifications that are needed in their area. When we're working with schools and colleges and universities as they become members, we really encourage them to share these standards documents with their industry partners and have them prioritize what is the need in the community and focus on that first and then build out the program from there. So with that, I'll stop sharing for a minute and turn it back to you, Garry.
Okay, Jim, if you would tell everybody where the SACA website is, please.
The SACA website is just SACA, SACA.org.
And so you can click on the web, you can go to the website and click on certifications, and you'll find this is a list.
Right.
But
there's a certification tab. If you click on the certifications tab, you can drill down. One of the options is credential descriptions. So if you click on that, there's a paragraph or two description of the content of each of these micro credentials, as well as the other certifications that I mentioned.
Okay, thanks, Jim. A couple, if you will, I'm sorry, I'm looking at two things and I'm trying to get a thought out. I need to stop looking at the other thing. Jim, and maybe Michael as well, and even Jeff, you mentioned micro credentials and badges, and I think in workforce we all kind of use those as terms. How do you operationalize those? Let's kind of try to put those in a basket or a box or something, if you will. Like how much time, how many skills, how do you package those? Jim,
Oh,
you
right.
might have. Oh,
Okay,
go ahead.
I thought that was Michael. Well, as I said, each of the micro credentials, we try to size the content of each of them that would be on average. There's nothing sort of magical about it. We try to size them so that the person could go through that training in roughly that 40-hour window and include that micro credential certification. That works well in industry, but it also works very well in education because, well, as Jeff indicated, they're embedding these individual micro credentials in individual courses, and it really provides a vehicle to have this external third-party evaluation to document to the student and to the faculty that the students have met the standard that has been established by the industry. We've worked with a number of states and statewide systems. And they've used the certification programs, having embedded in individual courses to get standardization across their state or across multiple campuses with multiple faculty, which has been a problem in the past for some large institutions to have that standardized content delivery that really becomes a reliability factor for employers that they can rely on no matter where what campus a student got the certification from or the training from, that it met a national industry standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Gary, I think the difference there is in the past, we as Rockwell and some of our ecosystem used to sit on industrial advisory boards. This just takes it right to the very next level because we've got the whole technical end user community weighing in on those technical work groups to define those skill sets. So the alignment is truly there, and there's a higher degree of fidelity and accuracy. But I think behind that, and going back to an earlier question, I think what we're really looking for here is, we can't get around things like ABET accreditation. I think that will always be a need for that, but we could certainly complement and supplement a 2 and a 4-year degree that a student is able to show they're able to pass a practical assessment of skills and standards that are determined by industry. So the alignment is there and the engagement should be high. And we're seeing that in 2 and 4-year degrees. The one example that's a really good one is a Polytechnic in Northern Wisconsin, University of Stout, has actually been able to, with encouragement and leadership of industry, to integrate SACA credentials as credit towards a Bachelor of Science Automation Leadership degree. Underlying this as well is quality and accuracy of those standards is really important to us as industry, but also accessibility and scalability as a nation are the 2 other elements. And that's why we spend a lot of time with some of the manufacturing institutes like SESME, the Department of Energy, and we're very aware that about 74% of manufacturers are in that small, medium enterprise category, and they have 20 employees or less. And so it's absolutely critical that we can provide accessibility to these assessments because they're the ones trying to integrate that into their learning and development pathways for their employees and looking for the transportability of those skills.
Jeff, anything you want to add to micro-credentials, badges, like what are employers telling you perhaps?
They absolutely love them. We can kind of pick the courses and build them up in the direction of what specialty that they want. And there's really no limit to it. They kind of, in some cases, consider it to be like they've gone to college in some degrees, giving them almost like college credit, where a company may require an associate's degree before. They're looking at some of these micro credentials as saying, you actually have the exact skill set that we want we're going to go with the certification, those micro certifications you have versus that 2-year degree, because here it is on that certificate, what we need and you have. And so it kind of goes both ways. I mean, I'm kind of reading over the chats while people are asking questions too. These micro credentials, they're really quite phenomenal, and they branch out into a lot of different avenues. It's not just basic high school certifications. It goes all the way from the beginner. Like, we've literally taken students that have a background in cosmetology, and we're teaching them how to be successful technicians and tripling their incomes through these types of certifications. And it covers all the way down from the very basic, the beginning, all the way down to the complicated advanced curriculum. And so you can really pick and choose what you want to offer as it goes for these credentials, and use them in your schools and institutions in however way you want.
Thank you, Jeff. And just maybe a comment to our audience. I assume y'all can see the chat as well. And thank you for all the robust comments. And I promise you that we are trying to monitor them collectively as a team and make sure that we get to all the comments, and we're working on that. But they're, quite honestly, they're rolling by rapidly, and we are getting there, hopefully. So Jeff, you and Jim, you follow, if you will, implementation of SACA. Kind of, what does it take to start becoming a SACA Academy? You know, how are exams proctored? Talk about the gold and silver level certs, if you will, and just kind of explain the student outcome point of view, maybe, if you will.
Sure. So SACA is a membership-driven organization. We're different than most other certification organizations. So school, college, or university, or company joins the SACA. They become a member of the Alliance. And once they're a member, they're able to offer an unlimited number of certifications to people that they train. We try to keep it as affordable as possible. To be a member, there's two different classes of membership. There's an education member and an industry member. The education membership starts with a high school level program, is $500 a year. If there's multiple high schools in a district, it's $1,000 for the district. For college level programs, it's $2,500 a year. And then on the industry side, for industry memberships, there's a sliding scale depending on the size of the company that starts at $500 a year for a company of 100 or fewer employees, and maxes out at $3,500 a year for a location of 500 or more employees. And we're seeing organizations like on the industry side, like I mentioned, Amazon, but also Conagra and a number of other manufacturers are using the SACA certifications to get consistency within their plants, and also to develop pathways for their existing workforce. I did see a question about incumbent workers. We have no prerequisites, so a person doesn't have to go through an X number of hours of training. We use that 40-hour as an example of what it typically takes for someone, to go through and learn that training. But if someone's working in industry, if they have the skills and knowledge, they can sit for an exam and go through the certification program. There's no prerequisites that way. I forget the other part of your question, Garry. What did I miss?
Well, just a bit about the silver and gold.
Okay, right. So for the certification for all of our credentials, we have two levels: a silver level and a gold level. As again, once they're a member, an organization can use all those certifications. There's no price difference or anything, because there is no fee per certification. It's just that annual membership. For the silver level certification, the candidate needs to successfully complete a written knowledge assessment that we deliver on the SACA testing portal in a proctored environment. So a school or company needs to identify the proctor for those silver level exams. And at the silver level, the role of the proctor is to make sure it's the right person sitting behind the computer, check their identification, and that they're not getting any help or cheating, if you will, while they're completing the exam. The candidates will have a maximum of 90 minutes to complete the exam. Most of our certifications, people are typically done in much less time than that 90 minutes. Now, for the gold level certification, that involves the candidate not having successfully completed the silver level, the written knowledge assessment, and then additionally completing hands-on performance assessments. These performance assessments are scenario based. So the candidate is given a scenario around that particular technology that certification covers, and to proctor the gold level certification, it's typically the proctor would be the instructor, or if it's an industry, the trainer. That person that's proctoring the gold level certification has to possess that gold certification themselves first. And once they have earned the gold certification, they can proctor others. And one important thing for especially for colleges and universities that have multiple faculty, once you have that one faculty member who's gone somewhere else, got that gold level certification, that person can then come back and certify other faculty members for that certification within their organization. And that's particularly valuable for community and technical colleges, which typically employ a number of adjunct faculty throughout the year. So it's not really that cumbersome to get those adjunct faculty to have that gold level certification, so they can proctor the gold level certifications.
Thank you, Jim. Jeff, anything you want to add to the gold and silver cert?
Really, to be honest, he nailed it all really well. I mean, exactly what he explained is what happens for us. We have a testing center for our school. We send our students to do that silver certification test in there because the actual proctor does not need to be certified in order to watch them take the test. They just ensure that they're not cheating. And then when it comes down to the gold certification, yeah, our instructors certify each other as they have opportunity to do it. And then they also certify our students. And really, typically with these certifications, like was brought up, these industry members that are currently working out in industry, they can typically come in if they know a concept really well and they want to take our program. We use it as even a test out procedure. They can come in, they can take the test, they can pass the test, they've completed the requirements for that course, and they don't need to go into that. So we can have the students that are coming in that have a really good foundation in motor controls, but really want to learn, PLCs. They can kind of jump the line and move up into that degree and get what they're really looking for, while we're still ensuring that they know what they need to before moving into that realm. It's really just been really beneficial in that realm. Even getting certified in a new location for SACA certifications, we were the first ones in our state to kind of do it. So we basically got everything ready. We did all the silver certs that we could, saw what was available, and then we said, hey, come out, teach us. And we did. We set up an arrangement. We had someone come out, and we went through a day, 2 days of certification, and just panned out everything that we do. And currently we offer our students in the ballpark, that's right, 10 certifications for our basic automation technology program.
Thanks, Jeff. I want to kind of reiterate a point that both Michael and Jeff made. Jeff just talked about an existing worker that has significant skills could come in and take a test, and you would give them credit and apply it to your program. But then Michael Cook also shared earlier that the Wisconsin Stout program was taking the SACA certifications and applying it as coursework. And so there's two examples of accelerating a student's completion point. And so that's those are excellent opportunities. And I just want to reiterate, Jim talked about the cost to become a member, but then the significant point is that the certifications are free to students. And so, oh, go ahead, Jeff, jump in.
I was going to interject real quick. I completely forgot while I was talking. The SACA certifications are actually such a hit that even our high schools are looking at using them. They got really excited about the idea of being able to offer, our state's all about certifications and being able to offer them in the schools. So the CT board got really excited about the possibility of doing those certifications in the school. So that's another example of how it's being used in a different atmosphere rather than college and university and up.
And I have noticed that Michael Cook has added several comments in the chat while we're talking, as have other contributors, to kind of address some of the questions and pointer information. So if you're participating in this webinar but you're not following the chat, there's information in there it might be useful. So just thank you for doing that, Michael. Jim, how would a person contact SACA for more information, to make a connection? What's the first step for some of our participants, if you will, if they're interested?
The easiest way is to simply email support@saca.org, and our customer service reps will get back with them right away. There's also links on our website, multiple places you can just click on and send your question or comments, and we'll respond to them as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So we're starting to get 50 minutes into this presentation. So what's next?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little about some of the future development we have going on. I think that's really important. So
yep.
Let's see if I can share this. So we just recently released a whole new pathway for smart process instrumentation and smart process control. One of our lead partners on this was Endres Hauser, one of the world's leaders in the instrumentation and process control technology. So these certifications have been in intense interest in a wide number of industries, from food processing to biotech to oil and gas, and there are significant numbers of process related industries that have been involved in helping to develop this pathway with these standards and certifications. So we also in the year coming up, we have agreements to develop additional cybersecurity micro-credentials. Well, we're working with both SESME, the Smart Manufacturing Institute, and SIMANI, the Cyber Manufacturing Innovation Institute. Those organizations are both funded by the Department of Energy, and they have been working with us for the past couple of years to develop smart manufacturing micro-credentials, and we're moving in a larger way into cybersecurity. So those credentials will be coming and being developed this coming year. We also have an agreement with the Florida Semiconductor Institute, FSI, which is housed at Florida, University of Florida. And the two faculty members that lead that institute are world-renowned in terms of semiconductor manufacturing expertise. So we're working with them and a number of semiconductor manufacturers to develop standards and certifications for semiconductor operations and semiconductor technician level programs. We also are working with the Digital Manufacturing Cybersecurity Institute, MXD. That's a Department of Defense funded organization that's developing, the future of digital manufacturing. So we're working on with them and their experts to develop two additional credentials. One for the pre-metaverse integration technologist, That involves augmented reality content, and the other occupational role is a data annotator. We also have development programs going on in the electric vehicle production space, and as well as the vehicle battery production. And it's interesting to note from our experience so far, there's really a lot of crossover between the lithium ion battery production and the semiconductor, both highly automated industries, but need a very similar skill set initially. There are some differences, but there is an awful lot of overlap. And another area that is being explored and we're working on is developing a program for pre-security clearance programs. We're working with some major defense and aerospace companies that want to work with schools and colleges and universities across the country to better prepare people to work in a security clearance environment, and to be able to more efficiently get that security clearance. So maybe that if they had some training on what the issues are with gaining and maintaining security clearance, that would help with the need for people with clearances that can provide in addition to their technical skills. So that is coming. And we also have a number of other micro credentials that are in the pipeline that are being developed. And we know that as rapidly as things are changing, we're going to constantly be developing new micro credentials as these new technologies become important in the industries across the country.
Thank you, Jim. Jeff, okay. Did you have a comment, Jeff? Your screen.
Oh, no, sorry. I scratched my nose. We're good.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I called you out for that. As we're starting to run out of time. Michael, if you will, I think you spoke to this a little bit earlier, and Jim, you might add a little bit as well, but it mentioned ABET certification, and are they implementing SACA? And so we have a question, I guess, are engineering technology programs that are ABET accredited implementing SACA?
It's a very good question. And I think in the comments I made earlier, as industry, we have this constant desire that academia would move quicker. And ABET has some very specific requirements around it that don't necessarily facilitate that speed. So I think the short answer is no, not just yet, but it is possible in future. And I think ABET's probably also going to look at this process as well in future, because these emerging occupations are happening today. They're not happening 18 months or 4 years from now. So right now, I think the general trend we're seeing is that an ABET accredited degree would have SACA credentials built in, which would really be that industry validation of the competencies coming out of those programs at this stage. So that's kind of the short answer that I can give you. I can't solve ABET overnight as industry, but obviously our desire is that the accreditation bodies would be able to move a little bit more dynamically in future with some of the technologies we're integrating and implementing.
Well, Michael, if I could add, we do have a couple of programs. One in particular you mentioned earlier was the University of Wisconsin-Stout. They have ABET accredited programs in their engineering programs, and their engineering faculty were involved in developing the automation leadership degree. So it is possible, and it doesn't conflict necessarily. We also have schools that have large engineering presence, like Texas A&M. Their engineering units, a couple of their engineering units are using SACA and actually developing teacher training programs to be done, through the university. So the two don't necessarily have to compete. They can coexist in most instances, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just for us, it's the speed element, right? It's the pace we're moving in industry. We want to bring some of those industry best practices into the programs much quicker. and certainly be more accessible. And I think that's the one aspect we didn't talk about here is our industry has done a pretty poor job of promoting itself and good career opportunities to students. And I think by having micro-credentials built into some of those programs, it just brings those institutions so much closer to industry, and the students and faculty get far more familiar and comfortable with talking about what we do in industry.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. And I'll go ahead and mention, I think we put it out in the original announcement when we put this meeting notice out. We're having a second meeting on the 4th of October. And it's more of a deeper dive, if you will, but maybe we'll expand on how to get industry more involved. To your point, Michael, it's 10:57. Give each one of you about 30 seconds or so, if you will, if you have any last quick comment. Jim, be sure and give your support email address again.
I'll put it in the chat window.
Okay, but it's just support at SACA, right?
Yes.
Okay, support at SACA.org. Any closing comment? Okay, we'll skip him for now. Michael, any closing comment? Okay, okay. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I would just tell you that we try to be as user friendly as possible. If you've got additional questions, please feel free to reach out. It is really easy to become a member. The membership form is available on our website. You just fill it out and email it back in, and we'll get in contact with you. We'd love to help you explore if SACA can work within your organizations.
Michael, any closing comments from you, or?
Yeah. So simply put, I think nationally we're moving in the right direction, and SACA kind of underpins our ability to move at pace and quality and accessibility. So, nothing is ever perfect, but we have a strong, well-validated system that I think is working really well, and I look forward to the future, with what's coming with SACA in the future.
Thank you. Jeff, any last comment from you?
Really just to kind of follow up with the last little topic of industry and education, to be able to keep up with industry. That is a very real issue. To put it in perspective, it can take from concept up to 4 years for an institution to implement a new program. And SACA gives a lot of direction, a lot of the footwork out of figuring out what exactly it is that needs to be offered, which takes the most amount of time. And so really, I look forward to all these different certifications that are coming out from SACA. I get really excited. We got Texas Instruments in our backyard that tries to snatch every one of my students that I put out, and semiconductors is something I could use some help with. And it's a pleasure to have been on with all of you and answer questions, and feel free to reach out if you got more questions for me individually.
Okay, to our panelists, thank you very much. Jim, Michael, Jeff, thank you very much for taking time out of your Friday morning. To our audience, I hope you found the topic very informative based on the number of questions and or comments in chat, and the number we started with versus the number we're ending with. I hope this was a very good topic. It seems to be. And so to all of you, have a wonderful Friday rest of your day. And like I said, we'll be sending information and posting it on social media and so forth about the upcoming meeting on October 4th. And we will have another group of panelists to continue this conversation. And with that, we'll close. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.